My beloved wife cheated on me and my daughter isn't mine. How can I move forward as well as shake angry feelings? Need support. This is gonna be a long one. My wife and I were married for 21 years. I figured it was one of those miracle marriages because we barely argued, seemed I always be the best of friends, etc. Well, our 15-year-old daughter received a 23andMe thing for her birthday from a friend. And of course, it said we weren't related. She had me do a swab as well as her mother and her 14-year-old brother. Only her brother and I seemed to be related. So I did a paternity test afterwards and lo and behold, she wasn't my fucking child. My ex-wife cried and pleaded for me to hear her out, but I just went numb to her. It would be one thing to cheat, but to find out the light of my life isn't even to related to me killed me. Don't get me wrong, I love my daughter with all of my heart. She's still my daughter no matter what. But what's scaring me most is my seemingly vindictive desires. I've never been like this, and I know it's out of anger, but I want her to suffer so bad. The kids absolutely hate her. Which on one end helps that desire, but I know that deep down, she is still their mother, and I don't really want them to hate her. Her parents and siblings all are mortified at her. Her sister hasn't spoken to her in a couple months. We all grew up together, so it hit hard for everyone. Again, this makes me feel great, which in turn scares me, because I don't actually want her life to go into shambles. But I can't help feel euphoric when I learn something in her life is falling apart. Both children are living with me, as they don't view their mother in a favorable light at all right now. I'm thinking about having the talk about them going to talk to her, because as of now, they refuse. The part that breaks my heart the most is that my daughter seems to be overcompensating her roles of a daughter. She makes sure to tell me how much she loves me, and is, in essence, being the perfect daughter. But I can tell it's because she knows that she isn't biologically mine, but she desperately wants me to know how much she values me. I'm actually going to talk to her tonight about that. To tell her that she doesn't have to act differently. I just really want to know how to shake the sadness and angry, vindictive feelings. I want to move forward as well as help my children move forward so they can worry about school and being teens. Please, any advice will help. Wife cheated on me with Airbnb owner. Advice. Hey everyone, I'm a 28-year-old male and I have been married for 6 years. I found out in February that my wife had an affair with the owner of an Airbnb that we stayed at in Hawaii. My wife and I took a trip to Hawaii in September 2018. In Hawaii we would always stay in hotels, but this time around we decided to stay at an Airbnb and get the more local feel of the island. When we showed up to the Airbnb, the owner was outside and greeted us. He was a young guy in his 30s, was a photographer for Vans and was very nice. We had an amazing trip all week long and the Airbnb was a perfect choice. After we had left the island, the owner of the Airbnb commented and gave my wife a lot of attention on social media. She fell into a lot of his traps. He would say things like, leave your deadbeat husband, and I could make your career in fashion amazing, come live with me on the island, I can get you a position at Vans, etc. I could always sense something was off between me and my wife. I would confront her about certain things but she would deny it. She would use Snapchat, Instagram and even FaceTime to communicate with this guy. One day I was so curious I started snooping around for evidence. I felt bad at first going behind her back, but I felt the need to do so. I read an email that she wrote to a psychic and she said, do you see anything with a man named he just came into my life? Right when I read that my heart sunk. I immediately picked up my cell phone and texted her what that email was about. She of course denied everything and gave me a runaround story and I believed her. 6 to 10 months went by but I could always sense something was still off. I would always think of her response when I asked her what that email was about and I just felt a bad feeling. I started not to sleep very well and having very weird dreams. Eventually it led to an anxiety panic attack that I have never experienced ever before in my life. These attacks would happen right before I went to bed. I eventually turned to marijuana to help me calm down and get to sleep. She decided to take a trip with her sister to Hawaii during the summer of 2019. I couldn't attend that trip because I had work obligations. Of course I funded the whole trip for her to go with her sister, and little that I knew that she was meeting up with the owner of the Airbnb that we stayed at before. While her sister was sleeping she snuck out the door and the guy picked her up in his car. Supposedly they had sex in his car and they parted ways. She claims that she did not enjoy it the whole time and that she immediately felt sick entering the car. She has felt guilty, remorseful, shame and has even had suicidal thoughts because of her actions. She held in this little secret for almost 2 years. She decided to come clean about this because we were having some trouble in our marriage and I eventually sat her down to say I think it's smart to part ways. I was extremely shocked to hear that from her. My immediate reaction was a feeling of joy and happiness for her that she didn't have to carry that around anymore. I just held her while we both cried together all night long. The next couple days that went by and even weeks were the hardest. I kept on thinking, how did I not see this coming? What is it about me that made her want to have another relationship with someone else? It has now been almost 4 months since I found out, and every night before bed I still get this sensation of heartache and sorrow. My first thought that comes to my mind every morning is her being unfaithful to me. For the first 2 to 3 hours of the day I always feel sick and nauseous. We have had a lot of heart-to-heart conversations, and I truly do believe that she feels regret and that she wishes she could take back everything in a heartbeat, but for some reason I still feel sick and nauseous every day.